The light of a small dynamo flashlight from my dad guided us down the stairs. Luckily, the staircase itself didn't creak as we crept down into the hallway, or we were just lucky enough to not step onto any creaking stairs. We turned on the hallway light that was supposed to draw the thief in and placed the basket neatly onto the table. Kai went as far as to go outside himself to check if he could actually see the money from through the window. He knocked against the door to signal us that we could let him back in. "Everything's just as it should be," he announced. "It's perfectly visible." After that, we got to work on preparing our little sleepover under the table. I brought 3 suitcase mattresses and multiple blankets from the closet. We finished laying out both mattresses and blankets in no time and had just gotten snugly comfortable in our little cave as Kai said, "This doesn't work. The thief is going to see us laying here the second he comes in. We'll need to put a blanket or something over the table." Unfortunately, he had made a very good point, and so we all crawled out from our respective blanket heaps. I searched through the closet a second time and found a large, colorful bedsheet that we quickly repurposed into a tablecloth. As we busied ourselves draping the sheet over the table, it caused an air turbulence strong enough to send our banknotes fluttering out of the basket, and of course, it took us an additional 15 minutes until we'd recovered all 3 notes from various corners of the room. Now, all of us were rightfully tired and just about ready to close our eyes and doze off, half hoping that the thief wouldn't wake us if we came in, as Kai said again, "No, no, no, this still doesn't work. We can't just go back to sleep. We gotta stay awake and wait for the thief." "But I'm tired," I said fiercely. "We could start telling jokes to each other to keep ourselves awake," Kai said back just as fiercely. "How's that supposed to work?" I complained. "Then everyone's gonna wake up." "Do you have a better idea? I'm most likely to stay awake if someone tells me a good joke. Laughter helps keeping you alert." "Oh, then just think of a joke yourself," I yawned loudly. "Ah, if I have to," groaned Kai. "Absolutely fantastic," I yawned even louder. "Now Louise and I can go to sleep." We were just about to actually fall asleep as Kai suddenly broke out into a fit of laughter. "What's wrong with you?" I asked, deeply disgruntled. "I just thought of a particularly funny joke," Kai admitted, still amused. "Are you gonna tell us what it was?" asked Louise, now interested. "I thought I wasn't supposed to tell any jokes." Kai turned very reserved. Louise spoke her final verdict. "This still isn't working. Let's just stay awake in shifts. You seem to be the least tired person in this room. You can take the first shift." "Good idea, let's do this." I agreed and laid back down, especially as I saw that Kai seemed to activate the respective alarms on his phone. He looked actually willing to be the first one to stay on guard duty. Regardless of the situation we were in, I fell asleep rather quickly and only woke when the first rays of sunlight broke through the window in the stairwell. Chapter 10, in which we start looking for other means to catch the thief. Unfortunately, I wasn't the only who woke up. Kai and Louise did as well. Somehow Kai's phone had malfunctions or we simply hadn't heard the alarm. In the end, all 3 of us had fallen asleep. In the moment of waking up, we were all distraught over having failed to stay awake, but then we remembered something much more important. The money that we planned to use as burglar bait. We got out from under the table and the bedsheet at record speed. Of course, not without each of us hitting their head on the underside of the table at least once. Kai with a bonk, then I with a boing, and last but not least, Louise with a bong. We looked at the Easter basket and froze in shock. The money was missing. The thief was here, said Louise. The thief was here while we were asleep, added Kai, and I said, disappointed. We could have actually seen and caught him. Why'd we have to fall asleep? Wasn't this also dangerous? Asked Louise. After all, he could have just killed us in our sleep. He hadn't, though, so it wasn't dangerous at all, explained Kai and held up the little basket, still in disbelief that the thief had actually stood in front of our table and taken the money. So, he really does have the key and watches the parsonage all day long, even in the middle of the night, I concluded. He might even have binoculars, or a telescope, added Kai in agitation, or night vision. I know that's a thing, because I saw it in a crime thriller in the cinema once. What do you think? Said Louise. You reckon we could lure him back into the parsonage with another bait? He couldn't have seen us through the tablecloth, and probably doesn't even know that he stepped right into our trap. Yeah, possibly, I said, scratching my head that had begun to itch from my lack of shower on the previous day. But we already lost all the money we had to the previous theft. Do you three have any idea? We suddenly heard my dad's voice from halfway down the stairs. We hadn't even noticed him over the heat of our discussion. Just who these 25 euro belong to? Oh no, I thought, horrified. My dad went down here long before we woke up and discovered our trap. To my dismay, Kai had exactly the same train of thought, just slightly to the left. Oh my God, your dad has the money. He has the 3 banknotes. Anna, your dad is the thief. Nonsense, I said. Of course, nonsense, my dad laughed. I just discovered the basket with the money this morning when I went down to turn on the boiler. At first, I just thought that I'd forgotten to make the entry for a donation. I gave myself a headache, trying to figure what parish it had been from. I was on the brink of despair until I realized that you 3 were lying under the table. Seriously, was this supposed to be a trap? You'll have to come up with something better if you really want to catch a burglar. He looked at us like he desperately wanted to add a, how do you even come up with something this stupid? Needless to say, we were disappointed and sulking when we followed my dad upstairs to eat breakfast. Today is Christmas Eve, said my dad a bit unnecessarily, as if we could ever forget something like that. I've already gotten 3 calls from upset mothers of children with severe colds, and they told me that their children were too sick to play their parts as the ox, the sheep, and the donkey for today's nativity play. Would you mind covering for these roles? All you need to do is put on a costume, stand around in the stall of Bethlehem, and occasionally make some animal noises. All right?